When I started graduate school, on top of the challenges that I was facing intellectually and academically, I decided that I was also going to challenge myself in learning how to cook. I needed a hobby amidst my studies that was going to keep me sane, be a creative outlet for the things that I was learning, and an opportunity to build skills that I thought were going to be useful for the rest of my life. So I set out trying to learn how to cook some of the foods that my parents prepared at home growing up. And I quickly learned that the right tools for the jobs that I needed were really important. Unfortunately, I didn't know what good tools meant and even where to start. So in this episode, I want to run through the essential tools for any aspiring home cook that they will need in order to make high quality food at home. Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Out There JCH. I'm your host, Jonathan C. Hall. The reason why I wish I would have had a video like this when I was in my 20s was so that I would have not wasted money buying things that I thought were high quality that were actually cheap. And I wish I would have had this episode so that I would have been able to spend my money more efficiently. There are a lot of cooking products out there that are relatively cheap or even expensive that are really just trash quality. What I aim to do in this video is to point you in the direction of high quality cooking materials that are going to last you a lifetime. Many of the things that I'm recommending will be the last time that you purchase any of them. They should last at least several decades, and that's an indication of their quality. Everything on here are going to be absolutely necessary to get started on your home cooking journey. If you'd like to support this channel, use the affiliate links for the items that I'm about to describe. Okay, let's go. Okay, one more thing. Before we get started, the principle of what I'm working with in recommending these different items is buy once, cry once. So some of the items that I'm going to recommend are relatively cheap and affordable, but really high quality, and some are expensive because the quality is really high and because the manufacturing process is pretty complicated. If I'm recommending something and you get a little bit of sticker shock, just know that it's because these items are super high quality, and if they're really expensive, they're going to last you a really long time. Buy once, cry once. All right, let's go. Okay, probably the most important thing on this list is a chef's knife. A chef's knife is maybe the one or two most essential tools in any person's kitchen, whether or not it's a professional chef or somebody like me who's a home cook. Now, chef's knives can be extremely expensive, can cost you upwards of several $1,000s, really expensive materials, really intricate manufacturing. America's Test Kitchen did a review of chef's knives where they tested a variety of knives of different price ranges and presumably different quality. And there were two knives that came out as their recommendations. One that was relatively inexpensive and one that was about 10 times as expensive. Hey folks, I just wanted to take a break and let you know that one of the best ways to get the most out of the content on this channel is to subscribe to my newsletter. Every Sunday, I give you more depth and insight into the topics I cover on Out There JCH, including thoughts and perspectives that I don't really share on this platform. The newsletter is free to sign up, and as an incentive to becoming a subscriber, I'm offering a free wild food resource guide that will help make you a more capable harvester and home cook. Just click the link in the description to sign up. Okay, let's get back to the episode. The chef's knife that I use is the cheaper one that they recommended, which is this one, a Victorinox 10-inch chef's knife. It is $45, which is very cheap for a knife, but it's high quality and will last a really long time. Now, for the America's Test Kitchen testers, they were looking for a knife that held a sharp edge and that was durable. And this Victorinox knife is just that. When you pull this knife out, you're not going to impress anybody. The patterns in the metal are not going to be dazzling. This is a stainless steel knife. The handle is not walnut and engraved and has lots of fanciness on it. This thing just gets the job done. I love this knife. I cannot recommend it enough. It's $45, which is relatively cheap, but again, it's one of the many things on this item that should last you a very, very long time. So, Victorinox 10-inch chef's knife, awesome knife, really high quality, gets the job done. Now, in order for your knives to last a long time, you need to have a tool that is going to keep them sharp. It doesn't matter what quality of knife you have, eventually the edge on that knife through wear and tear is going to wear down. And a dull knife is a dangerous knife. A sharp knife, this may seem counterintuitive, is actually a very safe knife because you want to have accuracy in your cuts. And if you have a dull knife, it might slip, you might be sawing and doing all these extra movements that you don't need to make. So, in order to keep your knife sharp, you should purchase a sharpening stone. Now, you can send out your knives and have them professionally sharpened. I tend to sharpen my knives once a month. You can spring to have your knives shipped out once a month and maybe eat takeout for the couple of days in order for those knives to come back. Or you could just buy a sharpening stone, learn how to sharpen your knife yourself, and not be dependent on somebody else to keep your tools at tip-top shape. Sharpening stones are relatively cheap. I recommend getting a two-sided stone like this one here, where you have one grit, which is more coarse, and the other side, which is more fine. And it's the same principle of using rougher sandpaper to cut down and smooth out the rough edges. So if you have a knife and you haven't sharpened it in a while, you're going to want to use this 1000 grit stone here. Focus, there we go. And then hone that sharpened edge with a 3000 grit on top here. A two-sided sharpening stone should set you back between $35 and $50. And again, this is something that you buy for that price and it lasts a really long time. And the way to get good is to practice. So I'll post a video on how I sharpen my knives. A sharpening stone is essential for any knife that you purchase. I recommend that you buy your sharpening stone the same time that you buy your chef's knife. Don't buy a knife without the tool to keep it sharp and high quality. The only other knife that I would recommend as being essential for the beginning home cook is a paring knife or doing finer knife work. I have a long Calphalon paring knife that's 6 inches long, and that is way too long for any paring knife. I don't even know why they sell one that's that long, because the whole point of a paring knife is so that you can do those finer, tighter cuts, and the longer the knife, the more difficult it is to do that fine work. So your paring knife should be about 4 inches or less. Victorinox makes a really nice paring knife that I've used, but I don't own. The reason why I don't own a paring knife that I really like is because the ones that I have work fine. I have a shorter curved paring knife, which I think is really nice. It's really sharp, but the curved nature of it makes some of the things that I would want to do with a paring knife a little bit difficult. And over the years, I've come to appreciate knives or any kitchen tool that's highly versatile and not, as Alton Brown calls, a unitasker. I recommend the Victorinox chef's knife and I recommend their paring knife as two essential knives for your kitchen, and also a sharpening stone. And you may be asking, well, what about those knife blocks, those sets that you can buy at department stores and things where you get a 10-inch chef knife and a 6-inch chef knife and a bread knife and steak knives and all these other things. Steak knives are great. Bread knives are essential if you're going to be doing any home baking sourdough, which is something that I do, but it's not something that you need in your essential toolkit as a home cook, especially not if you're starting out. Different size knives, a slicer, a fillet knife, which can be very useful and those sorts of things, are good, but they're not essential. So your money is best spent elsewhere once you have a high quality chef knife and a high quality paring knife to spend it on other things than a knife block. So 2 knives, 1 stone, you're good for 99.9% of all jobs that you would need a knife for in the kitchen. Okay, the next thing is a pair of kitchen shears. Now the thing about kitchen shears that's really important is that you want them to be sturdy, you want them to be high quality, and you also want to be able to disassemble them. Because if you're using these things for like cutting up meats, your shears are going to get dirty, so you're going to want to clean them. And it's really hard to clean in between these shears if you're not able to take them apart. There's lots of different varieties that you can buy. I would say that a pair of kitchen shears that set you back at least $35, you're in the ballpark in terms of quality. I wouldn't pay more than $100 for a pair of kitchen shears because then you're just overpaying for things that you don't necessarily need, like the brand name or what have you. So between $35 and I would say $65 for a pair of kitchen shears, but these are really important for jobs like opening packages of food to breaking down birds and things like that in the kitchen. And so get yourself a high quality set of kitchen shears and make sure that you can fully disassemble them. Really important. Probably my favorite cooking utensil in the kitchen is the spatula, and particularly this spatula. They were introduced to me as a fish spatula, and a spatula that's designed to cook delicate things like fish. Is that this spatula is good for everything. There is really nothing that this spatula can't do. And the quality or the design of the spatula is what makes it so special. It is lightweight, so it's easy to manipulate. I love the fact that it's slotted so that you can look through it. So if you're cooking like pancakes or anything where you need to check how done the underside is, you can stick the spatula underneath the food and lift it up, look at the underside of the spatula and see what your food looks like. Really awesome quality. You'll also notice that this spatula is slightly curved so that the end sort of curves up a little bit or angles up a little bit. And that just creates a nice angle for manipulating things in the pan. You can see that there are two edges to it, a sort of more rounded edge and then a sharper edge on this end. And again, that's just useful for manipulating food in the pan. Sometimes you need this wide edge to sort of gently scoop things around, and then sometimes you need this more pointed edge to be a little bit more pinpoint accurate in moving things in the pan. If you buy one cooking utensil, it should be this one. This one is really amazing. The fish spatula is my favorite cooking tool in the kitchen. I'm so glad I found this, and these are relatively cheap. What I would shy away from are the larger spatulas that they sell, and sometimes they sell spatulas that are about 20% longer than this one. I see those a lot in department stores and things. I don't like those spatulas as much because of the size. And again, what makes this tool so special is that you can manipulate it and use it really well. But the larger ones become a little bit more cumbersome. On the other hand, if you're cooking large items, having a large fish spatula can be really useful for getting the entire surface of that tool underneath the food that you want to manipulate in the pan. So I recommend this size as a general all-purpose size, and the thinner the spatula, the better. The thickness of these spatulas varies quite a bit. The one I'm recommending in the link below is this one that I'm holding. I really like the thickness of this spatula. They tend to come thicker than this, and again, that reduces the flexibility of the spatula. You can see how much I can bend this, but this is a strong tool, right? I'm putting a lot of force behind it to be able to do this, so it's good to be able to be flexible, but not so flexible that you don't hold your shape. And so this thickness of the metal of the spatula I found to be just perfect. And also, it's a little bit hard to see, but the edge of this spatula is tapered such that you don't have a big blunt surface here. So again, that's really helpful for scooping things off the tray without breaking the food that you're trying to get under. Spatulas that are sort of a uniform thickness all the way around, again, you're not able to do those fine movements and that easy manipulation in the pan. So this spatula I highly recommend. It is my favorite cooking tool. I reach for this thing all the time. When I bought it at TJ Maxx, I should have bought two, but I didn't because I didn't know what I had. And it's been hard to find these in the store, so I recommend buying them online. Amazing, amazing tool, and you will never buy another spatula or use another spatula again. There are solid metal spatulas, there are Teflon plastic spatulas. Stay away from all plastic tools unless it's silicon plastic, because they're just cheap, they're going to melt, they're going to warp, they're going to do all sorts of stuff that you don't want. This spatula or nothing. Just my 2 cents. Speaking of spatulas, the other type of spatula that I recommend, what I call a baking spatula or a solid silicone spatula. I really like this for things like mixing batters, working with wet ingredients, mixing like compound butters and things like this. I really like this tool because the silicone allows you to really kind of scrape every bit of material out of a bowl or out of a pan. I tend not to cook with this a whole lot. I tend to use this with like raw ingredients, but it is an excellent tool for mixing things because its surface and the fact that it tapers allows you to really just get the most out of whatever you're mixing. Now, you can buy these tools where they have a silicone portion of it, like the head and a bit of the handle, and then there's like a plastic handle or a wooden handle that's attached to it. I cannot deter you enough from those and refer you to buying one of these solid spatulas, because when you're working with wet ingredients, when you're mixing things, and when you wash this, the groove or the line that separates the silicone with whatever the handle is made out of gets caked up with stuff. It's really gross, and I really wouldn't recommend that with purchasing these silicone spatulas. So get a solid one that has some kind of wood or metal inside so that it is not flexible at all except at the end. And the silicone spatulas that are super flexible at the ends here, I find really annoying, simply because I like to be able to have some measure of stiffness with the things that I'm mixing up. Something that's super flexible is not going to give you the resistance and the manipulation for mixing things that these will. Buy a couple of these, they're relatively cheap, maybe like 15 or 20 bucks. Buy 2 or 3 and you're good for a good number of years. So, silicone spatula for raw ingredients, wet ingredients, and the fish spatula for all the cooking. Seriously, like, there's nothing this thing can't do except what this thing does. So now I want to talk about spoons. Now there are 3 types of spoons that I recommend for any beginning cook's home kitchen. A wooden spoon, a metal spoon, and a long stem spoon. Wooden spoon, just like the silicone spatula, should be solid wood throughout, not pieces of wood that are joined together. Again, those seams can get gunky and nasty. And the wood should be as high quality as you can afford and be a hardwood. I don't recommend softer woods because they tend to sort of break and warp a lot easier than hardwoods. I don't recommend bamboo for really anything. Get a hardwood, maple, walnut, wooden spoon, maybe 2, and you should be good. With wooden spoons, you can end up spending a lot of money on those, depending on who makes them or how they're manufactured. I would say you want to stay under like $35 for a wooden spoon. If you see a wooden spoon that's like $150 or something like that, and you should only buy that if you want to support the artist or the manufacturer or the woodworker for that particular material. But a $150 wooden spoon compared to a $35 spoon, you're not getting that much more quality. Get a good quality wooden spoon. Metal spoon, again, you want it to be as high quality as possible within limits, but a metal spoon is really useful for a lot of the cooking that you're going to do. I don't recommend plastic spoons at all because most of the cooking with plastic spoons involves heat, and plastic doesn't hold up its shape. If it's not BPA plastic, then it's gonna leach chemicals into your food. If you leave it on the cooking surface, it'll burn or it'll melt. Plastic spoons, ugh, don't like them. So metal or wood. And then a really underrated tool in the kitchen that I started using after becoming friends with somebody from South Korea, so shout out to Insu, eating utensils that included chopsticks and this long stem spoon. I cannot tell you how useful this tool is for so many things in your kitchen. When I'm cooking, I keep this spoon in my apron and I use it for all sorts of things like, a quick mix of a sauce or something like that, to tasting. I use these type of spoons all the time in sourdough bread making. They are essential. I love it. The long stem spoon, or the length of this handle, is really important because if you're working with warm ingredients or hot ingredients, your hand is farther enough away from the surface so that it doesn't get poached or steamed. But the quality of this spoon is really such that it's nice and stiff, it holds up, and I use this thing every single day. It's one of my favorite tools or favorite spoons to cook with, and it is absolutely my favorite spoon to eat with. So, getting a set of high quality long stem spoons are going to go a long way in your kitchen for all sorts of things, and I can't recommend these enough. 3 types of spoons: wooden, metal, and long stem. And again, this long stem spoon should be metal, not wood, not plastic. So thanks for making it all the way to the end of the video. Once again, if you want to support this channel or show your appreciation for this video, please use the affiliate links in the description. I make a small commission off of the things that I recommended. I'll absolutely add to this video. This is the beginner version of the home cook starter kitchen, what I call the do everything kitchen, because you have the things that I recommended in this video. You can do just about anything in the kitchen and do it really well. All right, that's all I have for now. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next episode of